The first time Captain R.H. Vorn saw a human, he thought it was a trick. His race, the Vireen, had evolved on a mild world with predictable climates and carefully balanced ecosystems. Any temperature outside of 23 to 25 degrees galactic standard sent them into shock. Yet here on the desolate ice plains of Brask VII, a moon where storms screamed like tortured spirits and winds carved valleys through rock, stood a single human, calm and smiling. R.H. Vorn's breath fogged the inside of his visor as he watched through the ship's viewport. The human wore only a thick, fur-lined coat with some sort of transparent goggles, his face still partially exposed to the minus 40-degree atmosphere. The Vireen crew had been trembling inside heated exosuits just to survive the walk from the lander to their ship, and yet this human, this earth-born biped, was kneeling in the snow, rubbing a strange mineral between his gloved fingers, as if his environment were no different from a summer park. "Commander," hissed Solar, the ship's medical officer, her tendrils shivering with anxiety, "our external temperature sensors confirm it. The atmosphere outside will kill us in 30 seconds if our suits fail. That being survives." R.H. Vorn adjusted his display. Impossible. But the human, registered on their sensors as Elias Vance, an explorer for some independent Terran group, stood up, waved, and began trudging toward their ship as though this deadly environment were a stroll. R.H. Vorn's dorsal spines twitched. Every instinct screamed, this is unnatural. Hashtag the meeting. The airlock opened, releasing a blast of icy vapor that hissed harmlessly around Elias. He removed his snow-encrusted goggles and gave them a polite nod. "You must be the Vireen delegation," he said, his teeth flashing white against wind-reddened skin. "Elias Vance, Terran Research Corps. Thanks for agreeing to meet on site." R.H. Vorn's translator struggled with the Terran's accent. "Human, Vance, why are you not deceased?" Elias chuckled. "It's cold, sure, but nothing I can't handle. Earth's poles can get colder than this on a bad day." Solar's frills went rigid. "Asterisk colder. Asterisk, you claim your homeworld subjects you to this torment willingly?" Elias shrugged out his coat and hung on a hook as if the ship's internal heat, still barely tolerable for the Vireen, were almost too warm. Underneath, he wore a simple insulated suit, the kind only meant for brief exposure. "I've done deep ocean dives, high-altitude hikes, volcanic field work. This," he motioned toward the frozen wasteland outside. "Just Tuesday." The Vireen crew exchanged looks of disbelief. Their people had spent millennia engineering their cities to maintain perfect climate control. To them, weather was a relic of prehistory. And here was a creature not just surviving, but thriving in conditions that would shatter their exosuits. Hashtag the expedition. The Vireen had contacted the Terrans for one reason. Brask VII was rich in iridium isotopes crucial for faster-than-light reactor cores. But their survey teams kept failing. Equipment icing over, suits cracking, even fatalities from exposure. They'd assumed only robotic drones could survive. When Terran Command offered human consultant, R.H. Vorn had agreed mostly out of desperation. Now he watched Elias lead them onto the ice plane, carrying only a compact scanner and a metal case. The wind tore at their suits, making the exoskeletal joints groan. Even with heaters at full capacity, R.H. Vorn's limbs ached from the cold. Solar stumbled, her tail dragging as she tried to keep up. Elias glanced back. "You okay in there? We can slow down." "We are functioning," R.H. Vorn managed, though his mandibles were numb. "How are you, without a life support shell, walking as if this is nothing?" "Conditioning," Elias said simply. "Adaptation. Humans evolved on a pretty rough world. Climate extremes, sudden storms, predators. Our ancestors survived ice ages with nothing but animal hides and fire." He squinted at a ridge of bluish rock ahead. "Honestly, this is comfortable compared to Antarctica." "Antarctica?" Solar asked, her translator voice trembling. "A frozen continent on our homeworld. Temperatures can drop below -80. Winds can break your bones. And people still go there for research." The Vireen could hardly fathom it. To them, survival without climate shielding was impossible. Yet this human talked about it as a matter of course, his tone casual, almost bored. Hashtag the storm. They had been sampling iridium deposits for 2 hours when the horizon darkened. R.H. Vorn sensors screamed a warning. A plasma snowstorm, common on Brask VII, was moving in fast. Charged particles, freezing winds, lethal to exposed electronics. "We must return to the ship," R.H. Vorn ordered, his voice sharp. "Now." Elias looked up at the roiling sky. "Storm's faster than I thought." He tapped his wristband, then frowned. "You won't make it back before it hits." Solar panicked. "Our suits will fail." Elias cut her off. "There's a lava vent 2 clicks east. I passed it on the way here. We can shelter there until the storm blows over." R.H. Vorn hesitated. Trusting an alien in a crisis went against every protocol. But already the wind was rising, sleet like razors slashing their visors. "Lead the way," he hissed. The trek was brutal. R.H. Vorn's joints stiffened, his vision blurred. Solar collapsed once, her suit flashing red warnings. Elias hoisted her up effortlessly, draping her over his shoulder like a child's toy. "You're overheating in there," he said to her calmly. "Regulate your internal fans." "You carry me?" she gasped, stunned by his strength. "Don't mention it," Elias said, striding on. His boots crunched over ice that split under the Vireen's trembling feet. The storm roared, a living beast of cold and static. Yet Elias moved with a kind of practiced ease, every step sure, every breath measured. By the time they reached the lava vent, a jagged fissure emitting warm steam, the Vireen were on the edge of hypothermic shock. Elias guided them inside, set down his pack, and pulled out emergency heat lamps. Sit close to the vent, he instructed. Your suits will recover faster. R.H. Vorn collapsed against a rock, trembling as heat seeped back into his limbs. His visor fogged over again, but this time with relief. You saved us, he rasped. Elias smiled faintly. Team effort. Solar stared at him, wide-eyed. How can you function? Your skin, exposed this atmosphere. Elias sat cross-legged near the vent, steam curling around his hair. Human bodies are weird. We sweat to cool off, shiver to warm up. Blood vessels constrict to conserve heat, dilate to dump it. We can run marathons in deserts and survive shipwrecks in frozen oceans. Doesn't mean it's fun, but we're built for adaptability. The Vireen had no words. They were a species defined by precision, control, predictability. And here was a being who thrived on chaos. Hashtag understanding. Hours passed. The storm howled above, but inside the vent it was warm and dim. R.H. Vorn found himself studying Elias with new eyes. Not as a mere consultant, but as a living embodiment of something the Vireen had lost. Resilience. You risked your life for us, R.H. Vorn said at last. Why? Elias shrugged. Because you're my team. Out here, doesn't matter what species you are. You look after each other, or you don't come back. Solar's frills fluttered in thought. You're kind, you survived such world without control. How? We adapted, Elias said again. We learned to build, plan, but also endure. Every storm, every drought, every predator. It shaped us. R.H. Vorn considered his own people, sheltered for millennia under climate domes, their bodies soft and fragile compared to this alien. Perhaps the Vireen had advanced in technology, but regressed in will. Hashtag return and revelation. When the storm finally passed, the Vireen suits were restored. They followed Elias back to the ship, stepping carefully over drifts of charred snow. This time, R.H. Vorn noticed how Elias subtly guided them around weak spots, testing each step before committing. Survival to him was not luck but skill. Back aboard, the ship's warmth felt almost suffocating. Elias removed his outer layer, looking none the worse for wear. The Vireen crew, however, slumped in exhaustion. Your mineral readings are in the case, Elias said, handing it to R.H. Vorn. Plenty of iridium, just like you hoped. R.H. Vorn accepted it silently. Then, on impulse, he lowered his head, a Vireen gesture of deep respect. Elias Vansatera, we are in your debt. Elias waved it off. No debt. Just call me if you need a guide again. Solar whispered to R.H. Vorn as Elias packed his equipment. Do you realize what this means? If his people can endure this world without full climate suits, they could colonize planets we cannot. They could explore regions we deem impossible. R.H. Vorn's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Yes, and perhaps they can teach us to endure as well. Hashtag a lesson in resilience. That evening, as Elias prepared to depart in his shuttle, R.H. Vorn approached him. Human, he said softly, you have shown us something we had forgotten. Strength not of machines, but of flesh. Perhaps the Vireen need to remember this. Elias smiled, his eyes crinkling. Start small. Take a walk outside without heaters. Let yourself feel the weather. It's scary at first, but you get used to it. R.H. Vorn gave a dry laugh. Perhaps one day. The shuttle's engines hummed. Elias saluted. Good luck with the mining. And hey, don't fear the cold. It's just another kind of environment. As the human ship lifted off, streaking toward orbit, the Vireen crew stood at the viewport. Outside, the icy plain stretched endlessly, a world they feared, now touched by a being who saw it only as a challenge to overcome. Solar's frills trembled. Are they all like him? R.H. Vorn watched the sky where the shuttle vanished. If they are, then the galaxy should take note.